Country music has lost so many of its giants in recent years. Johnny Cash, Merle Haggard, Loretta Lynn, George Jones. The list of legends who are gone is long, and it keeps growing.
I like movies.
But some of them are still here, still recording, still performing, still making music that matters.
Gypsy soul, straight to the smoke.
These are 10 country music legends who are still alive, and what they have been doing lately that proves the music never stopped.
All you outlaws.
Number 10, Emmylou Harris, still performing at 78. Emmylou Harris was discovered by Graham Parsons in a Washington, D.C. folk club in 1971, when she was 23 years old and had no particular plan beyond the next set. Parsons heard something in her voice that matched what he was trying to do with country music, take it somewhere it had never been, and hired her as his harmony singer. When Parsons died of a drug overdose in September 1973, Harris was left to carry the direction they had been building together on her own. She did. Her 1975 album, Pieces of the Sky, launched a career that has now spanned more than 5 decades, 14 Grammy Awards, and over 25 studio albums. She has never fully retired. She has slowed her recording pace. Her last studio album of entirely new material was Hard Bargain in 2011, but she has never stopped performing. In November 2025, she released Spy Boy on New West Records, a live album produced by Buddy Miller, capturing her Spy Boy band in performance, featuring 5 previously unreleased recordings, including covers of Tom Petty, Bob Dylan, and Bill Monroe. On October 2, 2025, she was honored at an all-star tribute concert at the Hardly Strictly Bluegrass Festival in San Francisco, with 14 performers on the bill: Steve Earle, Bonnie Raitt, Patty Griffin, Alison Krauss, and others, in recognition of her being the only artist to have performed at every single edition of the festival since it began in 2001. At 78 years old, she remains one of the most respected figures in American music. Her collaborators across 5 decades have included Bob Dylan, Neil Young, Johnny Cash, Dolly Parton, Linda Ronstadt, Mark Knopfler, Rodney Crowell, Ryan Adams, and Sheryl Crow. An eclectic range that reflects a career that has never belonged to one genre or one era. The girl who was singing in a Washington, D.C. folk club when Graham Parsons walked in has outlasted almost everyone she started with, and she is still showing up. Number 9, Wynonna Judd, The Hard Truth, coming October 2026. Wynonna Judd has 19 #1 singles to her name, 14 with her mother Naomi as the Judds, and 5 as a solo artist. Her 1992 solo debut, Wynonna, became the highest-selling debut album by a female country artist at the time, with 3 consecutive #1s in She Is His Only Need, I Saw the Light, and No One Else on Earth. She was inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame in 2022 as a member of the Judds, 1 year after her mother Naomi died by suicide on April 30th, 2022. The day before the induction ceremony, Wynonna accepted the honor the following evening and performed. It was one of the most emotionally charged moments in the Hall of Fame's history. In September 2024, she released Back to Why Live, a double album capturing her Back to Why tour, in which she performed her first 2 solo albums in their entirety. She also released Refugee featuring Lainey Wilson as a standalone single in 2024. Then she announced The Hard Truth, her first studio album of entirely new co-written material since 2016, a 10-track record produced by her husband Cactus Moser that she has described as the most personal work of her career, scheduled for release in October 2026. The album features special guests Patterson Hood of Drive-By Truckers, The War and Treaty, and Iron and Wine. She has described it as pain threaded with joy, which is exactly what her career has been. At 61 years old, Wynonna has built a solo career that stands entirely on its own merits, separate from her mother, separate from the Judds, and separate from the tragedy that has followed her. The Hard Truth, arriving in October 2026, will be her most anticipated solo release in years. The Sound of Survival, delivered by someone who has been surviving longer than anyone expected.
ACM, 60 years of country.
Number 8. Jessi Colter, Edge of Forever, 2023.
Today I turned around.
Jessi Colter was born Miriam Johnson in Phoenix, Arizona, in 1943. One of 7 children of a Pentecostal preacher. She was playing piano at church services at 11 years old. She married guitarist Duane Eddy at 19, divorced him, met Waylon Jennings in 1969, and married him the same year. For much of the 1970s, she was simultaneously building her own recording career and serving as the emotional center of the outlaw country movement that Jennings, Willie Nelson, Tom Paul Glaser, and Chris Christopherson were building around them. Her 1975 single, I'm Not Lisa, reached number 1 on the country chart and number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100. Wanted, The Outlaws, the 1976 compilation on which she appeared, became the first country album certified platinum by the RIAA. She was 80 years old when Edge of Forever was released on October 27, 2023, on Appalachia Record Co. The album was produced by Margo Price, who also sang on 3 tracks, and mixed by her son Shooter Jennings. It was her first new music in 6 years. The lead single, Standing on the Edge of Forever, is a rollicking, groovy cut that sits in the tradition of the gritty country sound she helped build 50 years earlier. Price said of making the album, "When I felt lost, I could call on her, and she would pray for me, with me." Jessi has such a strong faith, it's inspiring to be near her. The friendship between them produced one of the more unexpected country albums of 2023.
Love to talk with you.
At 82 years old, Jessi Colter remains active and present in American music, performing occasional shows and maintaining the First Lady of Outlaw Country status that she earned and has never relinquished. She and Jennings were married for 33 years until his death in 2002. The music she is making now, rooted in gospel, country, and the blues tradition she absorbed growing up in a Pentecostal household in Arizona, sounds like someone who has been building towards something for 80 years and has not finished yet.
Your key turned the lock.
Number 7. Tanya Tucker, Sweet Western Sound, 2023.
I saw you start.
Tanya Tucker was 13 years old when she recorded Delta Dawn in 1972, and 17 when Billy Sherrill produced the version that made her famous. She was signed to Columbia Records and singing about a woman losing her mind in a small southern town at an age when most girls were still in high school. The voice that came out of her was raw and powerful in a way that made Nashville executives simultaneously uncomfortable and unable to look away. She had her first number 1 at 17. She spent the following decades building one of the most commercially consistent careers in country music history. 23 top 40 albums, 56 top 40 singles, 10 number 1s.
From the old town movies to the bars on...
In 2019, she released While I'm Livin', produced by Brandi Carlile and Shooter Jennings, her first studio album in 17 years. It won the Grammy Award for Best Country Album and Best Country Song for Bring My Flowers Now. She was 60 years old. In June 2023, she released Sweet Western Sound, the second collaboration with Carlile and Jennings. On the same week, she was inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame. She rode on horseback from the Hall of Fame toward the Ryman Auditorium to announce the album's release. The album features contributions from Bernie Taupin and a lyric crafted from a voicemail left by her late friend Billy Joe Shaver, which opens and closes the record.
All you outlaws.
At 66 years old, she is touring her Sweet Western Sound tour and running her own tequila brand, Cosa Salvaje, with a cantina pop-up in Nashville. The woman who started recording at 13 and won her first Grammy at 60 is one of the more complete career stories in country music. She has never been easier to underestimate and has never failed to prove the estimation wrong. Number 6. Vince Gill, Brown's Diner Bar EP, 2026.
There's some old man
Vince Gill grew up in Norman, Oklahoma, the son of a country judge who played banjo. He moved to Louisville at 18 to play with a bluegrass group called Bluegrass Alliance, then to Los Angeles to join Pure Prairie League, then to Nashville, where he spent years as one of the most in-demand session vocalists and guitarists in the format before his solo career took off in the early 1990s. Between 1991 and 1997, he accumulated Grammy Awards and CMA Awards at a rate that became its own running story in country music, winning CMA Entertainer of the Year in 1993 and 1994, and CMA Male Vocalist of the Year for 5 consecutive years from 1991 to 1995, a record no other artist has matched. His voice, a high, clear tenor with a natural warmth that suits both up-tempo material and ballads, remains one of the most distinctive instruments in any American genre.
In the mirror.
He signed a lifetime record deal with MCA Nashville in 2025, an arrangement described by both parties as recognition that his relationship with the label had outlasted the normal commercial calculation and become something more permanent. In January 2026, he released the Brown's Diner Bar EP, named after the legendary Nashville dive bar that has been a gathering place for musicians for generations. He has been releasing new EPs monthly in 2026, a pace of output that reflects both his productivity and his comfort with the streaming era's appetite for regular content. He also received the CMA Willie Nelson Lifetime Achievement Award in November 2025.
But no desire.
At 56 years old, Gill remains one of the most active and respected performers in country music, touring with the Eagles as their lead guitarist, in addition to his solo work and his long partnership with the Nashville Symphony. The lifetime record deal is the kind of recognition that arrives for people who have been exactly what they said they were for 35 consecutive years, and Vince Gill has been that.
Pages turned, will humble.
5 legends down, 5 to go, and the top 5 on this list have combined record sales that would be impossible to calculate. Before we get there, if you have not subscribed yet, do it now and hit the bell. This channel covers classic country history every week, and you will not hear about it any other way. 5 left. Let's finish this. Number 5. Alan Jackson, Still the One, June 2026.
In fact, this is my last road show.
Alan Jackson arrived in Nashville in 1985 with his wife Denise and $30 in their pocket. She was working as a flight attendant. He was working in the mailroom at the Nashville network by day and performing in clubs by night. Then, one day at the Atlanta airport, Denise spotted Glenn Campbell in the boarding area. She was not the type to approach people. She said that herself later. But she walked up to him anyway, told him about her husband, and Campbell handed her a business card for his Nashville publishing company. Jackson carried that business card in his wallet for years. It led to his first songwriting deal and the contacts that eventually brought him to Arista Nashville, who signed him in 1989. He later said, "I will always feel like I owe Glenn a lot of gratitude. He was my first contact in Nashville when my wife Denise was a flight attendant. She met him at the airport, and he gave her his business card for his publishing company." His debut single, Here in the Real World, reached number 3 on the country chart. What followed was one of the most commercially consistent runs in the history of the format. 35 #1 singles, over 80 million records sold, induction into the Country Music Hall of Fame in 2017.
You're still the one.
His last studio album of new material was Where Have You Gone in 2021, which debuted at #1 on the Billboard Country Album Chart. He announced a last call, One More for the Road farewell tour in 2022, and has been touring in support of it since, playing stadiums and arenas across the United States and Canada. On June 25, 2026, he released a new single called Still the One, written as a gift to his wife Denise on the occasion of their anniversary. The song was not part of the farewell tour announcement and was not connected to a new album. It was simply a song he wrote for his wife and decided to release. That is as country as it gets.
We're still having fun, and you're still.
At 67 years old, Jackson is one of the last true traditionalists in country music, a man who has never moved toward pop crossover, never changed his sound to chase a trend, and never stopped sounding exactly like himself. The farewell tour has been running for several years now, with no definitive final date announced. He keeps adding shows.
Gave our hearts.
Number 4. Reba McEntire, Trailblazer, 2025. Reba McEntire grew up in Chalky, Oklahoma, the daughter of a 3-time world champion steer roper, and learned to perform by singing at rodeos across the Southwest. She signed with Mercury Records in 1975 and spent the first several years of her career in the shadow of established country artists before finding her signature voice and sound in the early 1980s. Between 1983 and 1994, she had 21 #1 country singles, 6 CMA Female Vocalist of the Year awards, and a Grammy. She also survived the worst moment of her professional life on March 16, 1991. When a plane crash killed 7 members of her touring band and her tour manager Jim Hammond, 8 people from her team in total, after a private concert for IBM executives in San Diego. She had stayed behind in California, with her husband recovering from bronchitis. She rebuilt, kept recording, expanded into acting, Broadway and television, and built one of the most enduring multi-platform careers in country music history. In 2025, she released Trailblazer, featuring Lainey Wilson and Miranda Lambert, a collaboration that generated 2.6 million streams in its first week, her biggest streaming debut in her career. The single was simultaneously a statement about her own legacy as a trailblazer and a passing of the torch to 2 of the most commercially successful women in current country music. Wilson and Lambert singing alongside McEntire was received exactly as intended, as the most natural thing in the world, because the tradition runs in a straight line from one to the other. At 70 years old, Reba McEntire is currently starring in The Voice as a coach and hosting the Academy of Country Music Awards, while simultaneously recording new material for an album that was described in early 2026 as already complete and ready to release. She has also starred in a Reba-themed slot machine that was installed in casinos across the country, which may be the most distinctly American legacy any country artist has ever achieved. She is, as she has always been, simultaneously everywhere and entirely herself. Number 3. George Strait, Cowboys and Dreamers, 2024.
Some days I feel like the last of a...
George Strait was born in Poteet, Texas, attended Southwest Texas State University, served in the Army, and returned to Texas to play honky-tonks before signing with MCA Records in 1981. His debut single, Unwound, reached the top 10 and announced a commercial run that would eventually produce 60 #1 country singles, more than any other artist in history. He was named the best-selling country music artist of all time by the Recording Industry Association of America in 2009, with over 100 million records sold. He was inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame in 2006. He has never needed to change his sound because the sound was correct from the beginning. Cowboys and Dreamers was released on September 6, 2024, his 31st studio album, and debuted at number 14 on the Billboard 200, making it one of the highest-charting country albums of the year across all formats. The album features appearances by Chris Stapleton, Little Big Town, and Lainey Wilson, as well as a duet with his son Bubba Strait. The production is clean and traditional in the way that all George Strait productions are clean and traditional, which is to say that it sounds like country music is supposed to sound according to George Strait's definition, which is the definition most people accept.
Like us, lovers and
At 72 years old, he remains the undisputed king of country music by chart record, if not by active commercial presence. His touring is selective, his releases are deliberate, and his refusal to engage with trends has become its own kind of statement. Cowboys and Dreamers debuted higher on the Billboard 200 than most artists half his age. 60 #1s, 100 million records, one sound, sustained across 43 years without apology.
and too much is never enough.
Number 2. Dolly Parton, Smoky Mountain DNA and Son of Jolene feature, 2024 to 2026.
You ought to go north, somebody told us.
Dolly Parton was born on January 19, 1946, the fourth of 12 children in a one-room cabin in Locust Ridge, Tennessee. Her father paid the doctor who delivered her with a bag of cornmeal because it was all he had. She was performing on local Knoxville radio at 10 years old and arrived in Nashville the day after her high school graduation in 1964. She has spent the 62 years since building one of the most diverse and commercially successful careers in the history of American entertainment. 25 #1 country singles, 2 Grammy Awards, induction into the Country Music Hall of Fame in 1999, the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2022, and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2022, despite initially declining the nomination because she did not think she had earned it.
With nothing more than high hopes.
In November 2024, she released Dolly Parton and Family, Smoky Mountain DNA, Family, Faith and Fables, a roots and bluegrass album produced by her cousin Richie Owens and recorded with her extended family, featuring contributions from relatives across multiple generations. The album traces the musical heritage of the Parton and Owens families from the United Kingdom in the 1600s to their home in East Tennessee's Great Smoky Mountains. The limited edition vinyl was pressed to exactly 3,683 copies, a reference to the geographic coordinates of her childhood home in Locust Ridge at 36 degrees north and 83 degrees west. Then in April 2026, a 26-year-old country artist named Bells released Son of Jolene, featuring Dolly Parton as a co-writer and featured vocalist, a character-driven sequel to Parton's 1973 classic Jolene, imagining a chance encounter with Jolene's son years later. Parton said when she heard it, "When I heard Son of Jolene, I thought it was very clever. No one had ever thought of it that way." She agreed to sing on it immediately. The single reached the top 40 on the UK official singles downloads chart.
In your hands.
At 80 years old, Dolly Parton continues to release new music, lend her voice to new artists, maintain her Dollywood theme park empire, and run her Imagination Library literacy program, which has donated over 300 million books to children in multiple countries. She donated $1 million to Vanderbilt University's COVID-19 research in 2020, which helped fund the development of the Moderna vaccine. Her Songteller Hotel and Dolly's Life of Many Colors Museum are set to open in June 2026. She is the most generous, most productive, most beloved figure in country music history. The fact that she heard a 26-year-old song about Jolene's son, said nobody had ever thought of it that way, and immediately agreed to sing on it, tells you everything about who she is.
Life's a meal and brother, I've been.
Number 1. Willie Nelson, Workin' Man, Willie Sings Merle, 2025.
Angel flying too close to the ground.
Willie Nelson was born on April 29, 1933, in Abbott, Texas, and has been making music for longer than most people have been alive. He wrote Crazy for Patsy Cline in 1961 and Hello Walls for Farron Young the same year. He moved to Nashville, sold songs to other people, and spent years trying to fit into a format that was not designed for him, before moving back to Texas in the early 1970s and building something entirely his own. From the 1973 album Shotgun Willie forward, he has recorded and released music at a pace that defies comprehension. 78 solo studio albums across his career, 155 albums total, across genres that include country, jazz, gospel, reggae, blues, and pop standards.
Trying to keep your spirits up.
Workin' Man, Willie Sings Merle was released on November 7, 2025, his 78th solo studio album, and contains 11 of his favorite Merle Haggard compositions, including Workin' Man Blues, Silver Wings, Okie from Muskogee, Mama Tried, and If We Make It Through December. Nelson and Haggard had recorded 4 collaborative albums together between 1983 and 2015, and this tribute was his way of returning to that conversation one more time after Haggard's death in 2016. The album was produced by Nelson and his longtime harmonica player Mickey Raphael and recorded at Pedernales Studios in Texas. It contains the final in-studio recordings by Bobby Nelson, Willie's sister and piano player for 60 years, and Paul English, his drummer for 60 years, both of whom have since passed. The album is a tribute to a friend and a farewell to the people who built the sound around him. At 92 years old, Willie Nelson is still touring, still recording, and still crediting the music itself as the secret that keeps him going. He has emphysema and has survived COVID-19. He has dismissed AI-generated death rumors with the calm of someone who has been dismissing premature conclusions about himself for 7 decades. Earlier in 2025, he released Oh What a Beautiful World, his 77th solo studio album, a 12-song tribute to fellow Texas songwriter Rodney Crowell, produced by longtime collaborator Buddy Cannon. When the 2026 Grammy nominations were announced on November 7, 2025, the same day Workin' Man was released, Oh What a Beautiful World was nominated for Best Traditional Country Album, and his other 2025 album, Last Leaf on the Tree, was nominated for Best Americana Album. 2 Grammy nominations in the same year at 92 years old, and his son Lucas Nelson was also nominated for Best Traditional Country Album for his debut solo album, American Romance, making it the first time in Grammy history that a father and son competed against each other in the same category. He has been doing this for longer than the Grammy Awards have existed. He will keep doing it until he cannot, and then the music will keep going without him, because the music always does.